Hey, it's Samantha Hartley of the Profitable Joyful Consulting Podcast. This season, we're talking about consulting skills. And one of the skills that I had mentioned briefly in last week's episode of the 8 core that I think consultants need to have is around math. And I wanted to expand on that today to talk about money and having financial skills and feeling comfortable with money. If you are seeing the video version of this podcast, then you might see right here on your screen this just stunningly beautiful white amaryllis. This was a gift from my friends last around Christmas time, and some of them blossomed and some of them didn't. And as I have tended to do with amaryllis, when I first got them, and I didn't know what to do, like after they were done, I don't want to throw out a plant. So I just moved a bunch of them to the basement. Well, a few months into the year, my husband came up and said, you need to come see something in the basement. I thought, oh God. So I went down there and I saw that these incredible, gorgeous, exotic amaryllises were blooming. And I thought, well, who does this in the basement? Like, what's happening? And I didn't realize that that's how you got amaryllis to rebloom, was to put them in the dark. There's a little light down there. And so I gradually began to learn more and more about amaryllises. And it is an area where I had absolutely zero knowledge. And then I just developed a passion for it and I started to get better at it. I'm sharing this because I think money oftentimes feels like one of those kind of things like, well, you're either good at it or you're not. It's kind of like, you were either good at math in school or you weren't. And the truth is that money is something that once you get familiar with, you can get better at. And as a business owner, I want you to feel empowered. I want you to know your money situation. I want you to know how to make money, how to generate your own leads, close your own clients, run your own business, and feel confident with the money stuff. There will be people working for you who are handling the intricacies of certain tasks around money. So you should have tax prep and CPAs and bookkeepers and payroll companies and all of those kinds of people working for you if you choose, if that's a fit for you. You don't have to know those kinds of details, but I want you to feel a fluency with the money in your business and how you go about using that money and being able to feel fluent in conversation with the people who work for you. So what I'm going to talk about today are just a few areas where I want you to bring your awareness to it. You'll probably fall into one of two camps. You'll probably hear this and think, I already got that. I already know everything I need to know about this topic. I aced this whole episode. Or you may feel like, okay, I'm learning some stuff and here are some action items that I can work on. Probably you'll fall somewhere in between, but I hope that what you hear today is that you can hear it in the energy that I'm sharing it with, which is it's fun and exciting to learn about money, and it's fun to be good at money. And just as these flowers are gratifying, seeing that money grow in your bank account and doing better and better with it every month can be super joyful. So I'm going to share some specific lessons and some actions with you. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the importance of having a business account that is separate from everything else. Very early on, I met a wonderful accountant who helped me set up my business and my accounts and all things like that. His name was Doug. He was a white shoes, black socks kind of an accountant. And he told me this thing and it was a refrain. He would literally repeat it frequently and would say, do not commingle your accounts. Don't commingle your accounts. And he said it just like that. So his voice is very often in my head whenever I am tempted to commingle an account. So what he meant was you have your business accounts and you keep that strictly for your business stuff and don't use personal accounts for business expenses. Back in the early days, I would sometimes go dip in and pull some cash out of the business account because it's the one that had cash in it and then go buy something and then whatever. And that would make things a mess. So he was saying, don't do those things. So you want to set up your business account where you have a checking account. And this is where a lot of your expenditures are going to come from. I think it's really important to have a savings account. Now, what we use the savings account for in my business is my payroll people. When they do payroll, they first will pull out the taxes that get paid onto payroll, all those extra expenditures that go along with payroll that need to be paid to the separate agencies. And then they do the actual payroll payment itself. That comes out of the checking account. So what's helpful about that is by moving that out of the way and into the tax account, I don't accidentally spend it. in case I didn't realize that that was accounted for something else. So they earmark it by moving it into the savings account, and then they pay for payroll. It's also a good idea to have a second savings account in there. You can have as many accounts as you want, and you can use that to put your taxes into on an ongoing basis so that you're making those quarterly tax payments, and just get in the habit of pulling that money out of your account so that you don't have a big bill at tax time, so that it's easier for you to keep up with those payments. And just anytime that you're pulling smaller amounts away from your accounts, it's always, goes down easier than when you take big chunks out, and you'll really notice that. So really setting those up to where things are separate is important. One of the things that I have noticed over the years is I had a business debit account, a debit card, which I really loved because it made it easy for me to just run everything through that, and it automatically comes out of the business. A couple of things happen, though, is you don't necessarily accumulate like miles or something good like you could on a credit card. So it can be good to have a dedicated business credit card, even if it's one that's in your personal name, but that is used specifically for business expenses. So, for example, if you travel, you probably don't want to have a debit card holding for the hotel or things like that, anywhere they're going to put a hold on the cards. It's better to have a credit card than a debit card in those situations. Also, credit cards are have a lot of protections against fraud that debit cards don't have. So if you're going to have a credit card that you use for business purposes, it should either be a dedicated one or, and this is the last resort, immediately pay yourself back for any business expenses that you put onto those personal cards. So I like to do this exactly as if I were doing an expense report for a client. So you come back from your time that you were with the client, there's 5 days of expenses that are accounted for, and then you send that away to the client and then they reimburse you if that's the way that you've done that. I like to do the exact same thing, except for I'll send it as an email to myself, and that way those expenses are noted, and then I immediately write a check from my business account to my personal account that I then can send off to the credit card company. And that way those expenses are taken care of immediately. So you could hear that there was a discipline around keeping those accounts separate. And that's one of the big principles of setting things up the right way. The second thing that I wanted to bring up as a major principle that came very early in my business is the idea of paying yourself a salary. I'm sure you've heard that you should pay yourself first, and that is sometimes more and less realistic depending on how you're earning and how many people are working for you. But a critical thing is for you to pay yourself a salary. And I think to have a payroll company do this. So maybe your CPA or someone has a division of their company that does this. My bookkeepers do it. But they actually pay a salary so that it's the same amount every single month. And they pay, as I mentioned, all of the other federal authorities and local state authorities, all of those things that need to come out. They pay a specific payment. Now, you may take owner's draw so that somebody pays you $10,000 and then, a little bit of, you'll save a little bit in the account and then you give yourself $9,000. You write yourself a check for $9,000. That's fine to do with owner's draw if you want to take profits, but it's really a good idea, and I think it's an essential idea, to pay yourself a salary from your business account. There's a few reasons you do this. The first one is you want to participate in the economy and do things like buy a house and have loans and things like that. So all of the official things that you're going to need to do, you're going to need to show evidence that you have a job, and they really love to see a salary. So for if you're just pulling chunks of money out of your account and paying yourself, and you're like, well, I made $100,000 last year and I paid myself $50,000 when I got the first payment from the client and another $50,000 when I got the second payment. That doesn't make banks as happy as if you paid yourself $4,000 a month every single month. Now, $4,000 a month every single month, plus all of the ancillary taxes, is going to be like $5,792, for example. I'm just making that up. But my point is, there's going to be a number like that. The money will be deposited into your banking account, and then the rest of that is going to go to whatever the authorities are, and your payroll company is going to pay all of those. They're going to file all those special reports that you have to file, and then you're going to get like a pay stub that you file with your taxes. If you're not doing this already, I urge you to set this up because it's so important for the banking system, but it's also important for you. because you get in the habit of having, like, this is a known expense that you're going to have, just like any team expenses you have, you're paying yourself, and that salary will come out of the business. Before I did this, my revenues would be all over the map, and then I'd pay myself all over the map. And once I got in the habit of doing this, and I actually started by paying myself a number that was like slightly more than I felt like I could cover every month. Like I had to do a little work and have some discipline around it to make sure I could cover it. But then it got easier and easier and easier to where that number is actually a very small amount relative to what I bring in the business. And that's the thing to take to your accountant. You want to make sure that you're not paying yourself too little, but you don't want to pay yourself too much because of those extra taxes and expenses that come out of that. So there's kind of a right range for that number to fall in, which will prevent you from being audited because it looks like you're paying yourself suspiciously little, and to keep from overpaying on all of those kinds of taxes. So speak with your accountant about that and figure out what's the right number for you. But getting in the habit of making a payroll that you are on and paying yourself that check every month is an amazing discipline for your business. And you can hire your family members if they can do some work in the business. There's a lot of things that you can do to set that up and create this kind of a formality in your business. And then, you're a small business, a real small business, and you have a real salary. You are employed and not just self-employed, but you work for a company and that is your company. So it gives a lot of legitimacy and it creates a lot of discipline. So I love doing that. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, a major principle that I heard so early, again, these are things that I heard in the first 3 years of my business. And this concept was the idea of signing your own checks. Now, I'm using this much more as a metaphor since a lot of us don't even use paper checks anymore. But the idea was you want to watch all the money that goes out of your business. And if you create too many systems and hierarchies where somebody who works for you, who works for you, who works for them is doing the payments, then you get a little too far away from your expenditures. This probably won't be a problem for your and my kind of business where there's 1 to 5 of us and you probably are signing all of the checks and you are seeing all of the expenses. But I have seen embezzlement in about 3 businesses I've worked close to over the years. And very often it was like the one person who was kind of like the financial, had the financial fiefdom in the business, paid a lot of stuff and then embezzled money. And that's a traumatic thing to happen to a business. So you don't get into that situation if you keep things close to you. More likely what will happen in our kind of business is you'll have things that you forgot you bought that you're still being billed for. You'll have a subscription that rebills and you think, I haven't used that thing in years. I don't want that. So I really want you to have a very close eye on what your expenses are. So going through that bank statement every single month and looking at what things are. When I identify expenses for my accountants, they have me do this on a monthly basis. I'll go through something they call a suspense report. And it's like, hey, what was this? Hey, what was this? And then I have to look in there and it's like some thing that came through PayPal and the description of it is completely unclear. And then I look at it and I'm like, oh, I didn't want that. I didn't pay for that. Or, oh, I forgot about that software. I actually want to be using that. Or, oh, I bought that information product. I wanted to give that to somebody. So it's an incredible discipline to have to really go through and pay attention to those ongoing expenses or one-time expenses that you've completely forgotten about. So I want you to be very diligent at watching your expenses. And then, and this is what's super important to me, when you're paying people, so every month in your business, as we pay for all of those expenses that I just mentioned, the products, programs, softwares, all those kinds of things, you pay yourself a salary, and then you're going to pay team. And in my case, I pay people like referral partners who have sent me referrals, and I thank them with commissions. It's the happiest money I spend in my business. So I'm excited every month when I sit down and I go through Venmo or I use the Zelle and I set it up and I send money to the people who work for me or who have sent referrals to me. Sometimes I look at something and I think, how much? Who? What was that? And that gives me an opportunity to say, I think I might be discontent with this particular team member. Or, wow, I am so grateful to this referral partner. That's amazing. I think I want to not just send a commission. I also want to send a note or make a time to have lunch with her or something. So there's energy around money. And the closer you spend time with it, the closer you observe it, the more you get to feel into how you're feeling about what that money represents, whether it's a relationship with the person that you work with or whether it's expenditures in general. Sometimes I'll have a month where I'm like, a lot of money went out of the business this month and it's making me feel constricted, like what the heck? And then I can sit down and maybe I have one of those rash of cancellations where I'm like, okay, that's it. Boom, 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 boom. And I cancel like 4 different kinds of services that I had. Or I stop this, I had a fantasy that I was going to use this certain program and I never got to it. And so I go ahead and cancel that thing. Just look at what energetically is going on for you around expenses because there's information in it. The next thing I want to look at, and this is really probably the most important thing that I wanted to share with you today, is I want you to track your revenues and I want you to do it with a dashboard. So you may have a QuickBooks or you may have your bank statements that you look at. But what I have created in my business from the very early years is a single page. Well, it's an Excel spreadsheet that's got several pages in it. But the main page is a dashboard, which shows my year. So down the left-hand side of it are spaces for me to put client names or programs or service lines or workshops, whatever is the revenue stream down the left side. Across the top are the months. And then into all of the boxes, I fill in how much money came in from that particular client or product or service, and during which month. And I fill that out for the year. So I can look and at a glance, I can see how I'm doing for the year, no matter what day it is. Now, back in the day when I had maybe 1 or 2 clients and there was just a couple of boxes filled in, it wasn't that great a number down at the bottom right when I looked at it. I had a lot of time and opportunity to get some more clients and to fill more things in. But there will come a time in your business, especially if you're building it the way that I teach you to, where you're layering on these retainer clients, that you can see that number at the bottom and it grows fast. The more you track it, the more information that spreadsheet will give to you. So that's the way that I want you to set it up, is tracking your clients and putting those numbers in. So for example, you have a new client, they're $10,000 a month, they started in April. Well, you come in April as soon as you get that first payment, not before, and you put down the 10,000 and you put it down all the way out for the 12 months of your engagement. I'm not superstitious. I go ahead and write it down all the way out. And one of the peaceful things and joyful things about the way that I teach you to work with these retainer clients is that when you do that, you have money coming into the future. It's not like with most consultants where they have a lot of one-offs and they're like, well, I have money this month and then probably something next month. But after that, I don't know. I mean, I have some stuff in the hopper, but no, not really any confirmed work. When you have retainer clients like this, you pile on that work. So you can look at that bottom right-hand number and know my total for the year it's going up and up and up with every revenue stream that I add to it. So you add a little workshop here, or you get a speaking engagement for $10,000 and you put that in there and that your number is going up. So I did this with a client one time. And the reason I started doing this was because I had so many people who weren't tracking their number at all. They didn't have anything like this where at a glance they could see what was their number for the year. They knew what they'd been paid so far because they could go look at that in their bank account, but they couldn't project like, how much money do you have coming in September? How about in October? How about November? Like, I want you to know those numbers, like what's projected right now. As well as what's been paid. So I sat down with her and she had, I gave her a spreadsheet, and by the way, I have a copy of it for you, my listener. So, I'll tell you how you can get this later if you would like a copy of my extremely simple Excel spreadsheet. But I gave this to her. She wrote down her clients down the left-hand side, and then she popped in the numbers, and then it populated the ones so she could see the numbers for each month. But she didn't calculate it for the year. So while she was there, I took, my cursor and I put it over the thing, how you drag it across and it adds it all up so that we could see the total for the year. I dragged it. The total for the year popped up, boom. And she went, woohoo, because she had never totaled the whole thing. So she actually had a really good number for the year, which was higher than she thought. And all she had been looking at was like, oh, well, this is what I made in this month and this month and this month. But if you're tracking for a milestone number like 150 or 200 or 500,000, you want to be seeing those numbers coming through and showing you what that milestone is. Because a lot of us are you might be working with a monthly goal, but a lot of us are working with an annual goal of that number that we want to hit. So it really helps to put that in there and to be tracking it on an ongoing basis. It is joyful when you're doing it. You can feel excited when you look at those numbers on there, especially if when you sell a client in, it can be something like quote unquote small, like a $3,000 a month engagement. When you write $3,000 a month all the way across your spreadsheet and you have one for next year and there's money coming in, there's already money next year. Like think about the feeling you have about that. I feel great about that because I didn't always have that. And I remember when we would start a new year and it would be like, well, turn the calendar and here we are at zero again. And then we would claw our way back up to some revenue coming in. When you build your business the way that I'm teaching you to do it, you have money into the future and you just keep layering it on so that there isn't a 0 month coming any time, right? It's you have money always into the future. So this dashboard helps you to see what that is. And a thing that I love about it is, so this is open on my computer all the time. Now I also have last year, the previous year, and then I have, hidden in the Excel, I can pull them up. So I can say like, hey, what was that one year I did that program? And then I go back and look at that and I'm like, oh, I had a great month that month because I had done this, promotion here. Or if I look at my years, do I have any seasonality? Is there ever a time when I have a low month? So for many years, like February and November were always my low months. So what did I start doing? I started doing things to where I sold a few months before so that I would ensure that those months had things in place. So I was reverse engineering my marketing plan based on what my revenue totals had been. So there is information in numbers. And my mentor at Coke taught me this. And I'm so grateful to him because he was like, a spreadsheet, there's like so much information for you in here if you know what to look for. And so part of what I'm sharing with you today are things that you can look for in that spreadsheet. And conversations that you can have so that if you fill out your spreadsheet like this and you look at it and you think, okay, so like what? Well, how did it compare to last year? How does this month compare to last month? How does this quarter compare to last quarter? Where are your high months? Where are your low months? Who are your most profitable clients? So remember, I said that your totals go across the sheet. So if you have a client, a list of clients down the left-hand side, and you have a list of numbers throughout it, I can see who's my highest revenue client. How much revenue do I earn from one-on-one clients as opposed to group programs? Oh, wow, I've got affiliate revenues that come in here. So I'm filling in affiliate money down the bottom. Wow, that's a thing that I wouldn't even have thought about it had I not checked my PayPal account because I didn't even think to track that. Oh, okay. So now you start to track your affiliate revenues. So I want you to have at minimum, if you take nothing else away from today, I really want you to have this one sheet that can be open on your computer at all times. So you always know how much you're earning so far this year, what your projected revenues are for the year. Okay. That's going to be, I think, empowering and fun for you, especially if it's something that you don't have yet, because that's a great foundation to build upon. The next thing that I want you to have, and on this same dashboard, I have that sheet, and then on another tab of Excel, I have a sheet where I have basically bank account expenses for my business and for my personal expenses. So today I'm going to focus on talking about the business expenses, but I have the total amount of money that's in my bank account at any time, and I'm checking that almost on a daily basis, pretty much daily. And then I have the big expenditures that are coming and by the date that they bill. So I always have money in the account to cover them. Now that may seem crazy, but I've said I'm paying payroll and that's a chunk of money that comes out. And then you might have a big expenditure. I remember when I first invested in coaching, I remember it was, there was a $1,500 a month payment that came out of there, that there were times that I didn't have $1,500 in the account, but once I invested in coaching, I always was sure and careful to cover it. And this has been a really interesting thing that I have learned, just as I've gotten better with flowers, I've gotten better with money. When I have an expenditure, I plan for it, and I always have the money to cover it. I don't know how that happens. I kind of do. There's a belief I have that I can always cover the expenditure that I have planned. So whether it's been a $1,500 a month coach or a $4,500 a month coach that I've been investing in, that money has been there in my account. So I plan for it. by date. And so I always know how much is in my account. I know when that thing is debiting. And I am able to track and plan for my list of expenses. So in a separate column, I have all of my subscriptions, because those can add up, believe me. So I have all of the subscriptions, and I have a little slot for just overhead. So there's a minimum amount of money that I always keep in my account, and that's covering like all that random stuff. Then I will plan specifically. I know when payments come in, because I have that recurring revenue that I'm teaching you to build. And I can plan for when I know this big expenditure comes out at the beginning of the month, or this one around mid-month, or this one at the end of the month. And I'm tracking that. And I track that on a daily basis so that I always know how much money I have. And it reminds me a little bit of the way that my mom would balance her checkbook. And it scares me to death to think that there was a time when somebody was looking at a bank statement that they only got once a month. So I'm checking, as I said, I'm checking that on a daily basis, usually. Every business day, I look at that dashboard. I check in on those statements and accounts. And what that does is it keeps me hyper aware of how much money is coming into the business, how much is going out. And I can always catch something. If there's a weird thing that happens, I had a vendor charge me twice for a $997 expense. Not tragic, but it could have been, because it's theoretically a big expense. And because I caught it immediately, they were able to return it immediately and reconcile it without me going, if a month had gone by, I would have had a hard time. I may have never noticed it if I weren't checking my numbers on an ongoing basis. So I really like to have that kind of an eagle eye on my accounts. So you want to watch whether checking your numbers this closely makes you feel nervous or whether it makes you feel empowered. As you can hear, it makes me feel empowered because I know that I can earn what I need to be able to cover that. And I also know that I've caught so many mistakes in the earliest possible stages that I feel rewarded for being diligent. So tracking those expenses and having those revenues on a single page on your dashboard, to me, are super important, and they'll put you in charge of your money. So there's two last things that I wanted to leave you with as far as financial principles that I think are really important. And I see within my peer group, and also some of the people that are slightly younger than me that I mentor, of my colleagues, one of the things that I've been sharing with them is they're like, well, we're making tons of money in the business and we're doing really well. So what should we do? And so I find myself saying this like grandma kind of thing to say, which is like retirement. Like, put your money in your retirement. Think about this, because all of the generations that came before us, at least in my world, like their money was in their retirement. I came from a military family. That money was there when my father retired. My mom worked for the state. There was tons of money for her when she retired that were part of her pension. If we're self-employed, we don't get that. And so you've got to do the payroll so that there'll be Social Security for you when you retire. And you have to get financial advisors, because what a lot of us have who are bringing in tons of money through the business, and you like bring that in and you have profits and then you spend that money. A thing that I see a lot of my peers forgetting to do, and the younger people that I've been talking to, is investing in retirement. And having those retirement accounts and having those financial advisors to say to you, here's what you need to have happen. Here's what you need to have planned out. So I have a few really, really successful younger colleagues that I've been mentoring and talking with. And this has been one of the things that I have suggested they do as like their next step, like really get this kind of thing in order. And make sure that you're planning for it. There's really two groups of people. There's the people who are like really doing a great job and have like a bunch of money in retirement and they're super excited about that. And then there are the ones who are like, uh-oh. So you're not late doing it if you start right now. It's never too late to start. It's just important that you do start. Always would have been great to do things sooner and earlier and before, but for goodness sake, just definitely, if you take that away from today, like find a financial advisor and start getting serious about planning for retirement. And then my very, very last thing is, I was talking to my mom about a recent episode that I did about sales metrics and consulting metrics. And I said, she watches the show. Hi, Mama. So I said, what was your takeaway? And she said that people can decide whether they want to have more clients or more time. And I said, yeah. And isn't that interesting? Because I work with all kinds of different people, and so they want different things. That some people do want that, and some people do. And I'd say that we get to decide. We get to decide, do I want more clients or more time, or do I want both? And so I said, sometimes people are like the breadwinner in the business. So they want to make like a ton of money. And then sometimes people are like, dude, my partner, spouse, my family earns the money. And so really whatever I earn is just like extra. And she said, oh, that's interesting. Because when we were little, my father was in the military and she had a job at a bakery. And she said, all the money that I made from there, I made it was just kept back money. And kept back money was her term. I remember seeing it in the checkbook when she was balancing the checkbook and stuff. Kept back money was her term for like savings that you could hide for yourself, like a rainy day fund, but also like a vacation fund and that kind of thing. And I feel like, yeah, you can have that kind of money. So whether you're the breadwinner or whether the business earns money that is just like extra for the family or whatever, I really like having kept back money. And I do that by pulling money and I put it into different kind of savings accounts where I take it where I can't see it. Sometimes if I see money, I spend money. So one of my favorite things to do is to have money that almost invisibly goes into savings accounts. And the one that I've used that I love is called Acorns. You put a little bit of money into it and then it auto debits like a certain amount of money. And remember I was saying that whenever I invest in coaches, I've always had enough to cover it no matter how much it was, even though sometimes it seems like a lot of money. It's kind of the way it is with the savings. It debits automatically. It goes away to a place I don't see on a website, sure, but I can go and check in on it from time to time. But what's super fun is I don't miss it because it comes out automatically. So if you can create savings in your business to where you just move that money out and into a savings account that's for your tax fund, or you just move it out of your personal account and it's into a savings account for retirement. It's into a savings account for vacation fund, or it's in a savings account for like kept back, like whatever you want to do with it. I really love the idea of setting up a lot of different things like that. So in the same way as we have multiple revenue streams, we have multiple savings streams, and doing it in a way that is invisible to you so that it's like $50 a week, or it's like $1,000 a week, like whatever is a number that you won't really miss, you won't really notice. Building that habit can be super fun. And it can create just gifts for your future self that you're so going to appreciate. In general, as far as consulting skills go, knowing your numbers and feeling fluency with running your business and the numbers in your business is so critical. And just like getting better with Amaryllis's is, I have gotten so much better in this area. Now, somebody's going to hear this and think, oh my gosh, she's so naive and blah, blah, blah. What I can tell you is I'm learning every day and I'm excited and empowered to learn. I want you to be rich. I want your life to be rich in all the possible ways. And I want you personally to be rich, to feel fluent and confident with money. I want you to be able to have conversations where even if you feel like I'm asking stupid questions, it doesn't matter, because the people who are helping you with your money are able to explain to you how you can accomplish your goals, how you can do things in your business, how you can bring in more money, how you can have more money that comes to you and less that goes away in expenses. Just having that fluency with money to me is one of the most important personal development journeys that we have as a business owner. And as a woman, I want women to be good with money. I want us to look at it, to learn it, to talk about it, to be public with it, and to share that with your daughters, to share that with your colleagues and your women friends. I want us to have the power that comes from having money. There's so much wealth in our country, and there's inherited wealth, and then there's self-made wealth. I want you to make your own wealth, no matter how else money comes to you. I want you to feel confident in making that money yourself. And I hope that what we've talked about today is going to make you feel more empowered to, on a daily basis, interact with your numbers and with the money that comes into and flows through out of your business. I do have a copy of this spreadsheet I promise you, it's a simple Excel spreadsheet, which you probably think, what the heck is that when you see it? But if you would like a copy of mine, you're welcome to download it. You can find it at samanthahartley.com/super, SUPER. And I will put that bonus there for you. With that, I am wishing you a profitable and joyful consulting business. Thanks for watching. I'd appreciate if you'd like this episode, and if you enjoyed the show, why not subscribe? Be sure to click the bell to get notified when new episodes drop.